So, what's your hard with the holidays? Is it anger? That was my client last night, where she's just feeling annoyed with everything. She said her partner dropped their cell phone and she's like, "Do you have to make that much noise?" So, is it an undercurrent of just feeling unsettled? Or maybe you've upped it and your heart is sadness that you wish you could find a little bit more joy in this season, but it seems to be like sand sifting through your fingers. It's really hard to grasp. Or number three, there's some sort of loss. That was my client yesterday also, where they're facing the loss of a relationship and moving through the holidays that way. Or might you be like my client tomorrow, where it's the straw that broke the camel's back? It is the absolute emotional flooding and overwhelm. You can't point to any one thing, but it's just all been too much. And you are so busy with overwhelming sadness, maybe anxiety, depression, that you're like, I can't even imagine the holidays because I'm having to deal with so many of these symptoms. Well, that's what we're here to assist you with today. When the holidays get hard and there is confusion, there feels crisis, there's chaos, and you just feel holidazed, how to begin to move into what could be at least a little bit of happy holidays. So joining me today is Angie. Angie, introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Angie Monco, and I am a life coach for intuitive women leaders and certified hypnotist. And I help them get off the hamster wheel and find inner peace.
And that's what can be really missing this time of year is the peace.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Uh, yeah. And so we're like, how can I even be happy when I can't feel settled? So I have 9 steps of suggestions because we're both hypnotists. That's what we do. We make suggestions. So I have 9 steps of suggestions on things that you can do to begin to regain a sense of peace and move into optimizing your emotions. And Angie also has some tips, tools, and techniques that she is going to offer you to get that grounding, to feel like you've got a firm foundation and begin building on it. Because what you do now, it's the beginning of December. What you do now, you're actually going to see the full results of it December, January, February, the beginning of March, because it takes 91 days for an identity upgrade. We're not just treating symptoms. We want you to activate more of who you really are. And what you do now is what's going to set up the type of spring into success that you're going to be moving into. Angie, anything you want to add to that as sharing?
No, I think as we go more into it, I'll add more.
Okay. All right. So the very first step is look at your support system, because you're going to need it this year. Things feel more out of control than they have, and I think the studies were saying 40 years
Mhm.
as far as prices and a division in relationships and your ability to feel like you're making any progress. So this is not the year where you're going to buck it up and do it all on your own. If you try, that's great. More power to you. But then you're going to continue to isolate. And they are now calling loneliness. And you can be in the midst of people, but they're not engaging you. They're calling loneliness now the new disease.
Like an epidemic or something.
Mm-hmm. That it is just as devastating as smoking.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
And yeah, and I'll be honest with you, this is where I was last Christmas season. And luckily, I had my support system in place to where they recognized I needed assistance before I did.
Mm.
So, support system, what does that look like? I recommend you have 3 lifelines, 3 different people that you can reach out to. One is so you can bitch, moan, whine, and complain. Just, yeah, dump it. Now, when you do that, you want to let that lifeline, that support person know you don't need them to fix it, that you're just needing to take out the trash.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's one of the hypnosis sessions that Angie and I do, taking out the trash.
Yeah.
Okay, because you're going to have toxins that build up in your system from the mental and emotional overload. And being able to share with someone where you're like, I just need to get rid of some of this, allows you to be validated, and it can reduce by 20 to 25% the crud you have in your system. So the very first lifeline is bitch, moan, whine, and complain person. The second one is higher vision. This is the person that's really good at seeing the big picture. They can, whenever you share with them, they can help you look forward, not just to what's going on in the holiday season right now, but it'll be number 8 in our steps. They'll help you with a longer term perspective. And by the way, you typically will not find one person that can do all 3 of these areas, maybe 2, but not all 3, unless they are trained for that. Angie and I are trained for that. Okay. So you've got bitch, moan, whine, and complain to take out the trash. You've got someone who can help you with a long-term perspective for progress. They can help you look forward to something, and maybe it's past the holidays. And then the third lifeline that you want to be able to engage is someone who can give you specific steps right now to assist, maybe not with the challenge, but at least assist with the symptoms. So you've heard me say before, breathing, whether it is physiological sighing or box breathing, you need to make sure you're taking in enough water, because the first thing that dehydrates is the intelligence area of your brain, and you're going to need more smarts this holiday season than what you've had in the past. And sunlight, if at all possible, 5 to 10 minutes within an hour of waking up, outdoors, not through glass like your windshield. Oh, I got the sun in my eyes this time of year when I'm driving into work. No. No, this is like someone shared with me one time. It's like we're house plants. Okay, we need sun, and we need to be watered, and we need our nutrients. So yeah, get outside if at all possible. But that's on some very simple tips. Now, I will tell you on the breathing, I do it multiple times every day. I can have a challenge with my system getting overwhelmed. And so the breathing is what allows my system to do a reset and get me right back to where I need to be on a firm foundation. So support system. Anything about that you want to add, Angie?
And I like it. I agree with it. And the breath is really important. Like today I was on the way to this meeting this morning. It was a network group, and I was running 10 minutes late. So I already felt bad about that. And then when I got there, it was not obvious where the place was. It just wasn't. And then I had to parallel park.
Oh no. Oh no.
I parallel park. And of course, whenever you parallel park, someone comes up, and then it was downtown St. Louis. So anyway, I utilized the breath, like, and I also, this was in a healthy way, just let out a good scream. Because
yes.
I was but it wasn't, I didn't feel out of control. It was just a release, you know?
Yes. Yes. So screaming, also humming,
Yeah. Yeah,
activates the vagus nerve.
that's true. It's true.
Yeah. So whether screaming is just like a very loud hum at times.
Mhm, mhm. I don't do it too often, but I just felt like, I just got to get that energy out.
Yes.
But I think of support, and that is, I don't know if you've heard this, but when you've got what will take you, how is it phrased? What will take you out of the trauma response is safety,
Hmm.
to feel safe in your body. What will take you out of the stress response is support. So I was thinking, just to
Yes.
add a little nuance there.
Inclusion of self and others. We cannot grow on our own. You
Hmm.
can have somebody lock themselves away for 20 years in a cave and say that they have achieved enlightenment. They achieved a close relationship with their higher power, but they have no ability to relate that relationship to others, because we only grow when others are involved. But there's a difference between growth and enduring. And this is the reason why we've got to look at a support system that can actually help us, instead of going, what, why don't you have this by now? Why do we keep going over this?
Hmm. That doesn't help.
No, it does not. So this is actually support. In fact, one of my clients, every time they reached out to their supposed significant other, that significant other would turn it around, and go, well, what about me? I need assistance too. And it's like, okay, you really can't go to this person anymore for support.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah. Okay. Step number 2, structure. This is when you're looking at what can you put into your day-to-day rhythm and routine that you can rely on. Now, I know, so I just came off of my mom visiting over Thanksgiving. She was here for 2 weeks living with me. It caused some of its own challenges, as far as I've shared before on the podcast that my dog has had a challenge with
Yeah.
seizures, and he wound up having a seizure the day before Thanksgiving because of everything that was going on in the household. So I wound up spending Thanksgiving by myself. Everything that I was going to be doing, other people had to step in and handle it. And it actually turned out very beneficial, because it allowed people to step into leadership.
Hmm.
And I had multiple parties that I got to go to then. So it actually all worked for benefit, but that's because of the third step I'll get to, which is known as borrowing trouble. But right now, structure. I knew that with my mom being here, me still working as well as taking care of her in certain ways, and the added comings and goings of people at my house, plus my puppy. Hey, at 8, 9 o'clock at night, I was in bed. I knew that I was going to have to do that in order to be prepared for my day beginning at 5:30 the next morning. And because my mom does not sleep through the night, she would typically get up about 3. My dog would hear her, um, get excited. I didn't want to stress him out. So I was getting up at 3,
Mm.
and then I would be going into work between 8:30. They'd be going back to bed. And then, so it's a good thing that I had already put that structure in place. So
Mm.
you want to look at what kind of rhythm are you going to need to put into place to make up for the extra demands that are going to be on your focus, on your time, as well as your money. So those resources and the extra activity that you're going to have this time of year.
Yeah,
So,
that's a good point. I think, well, I have my daily structure with self-care, like
mhm.
meditation, energy routine, and various things. And I think it's also important, like with structure, that we don't put too much into our days. Like we can, like I do cookies, I do cards, of course, gift buying. Those are extra responsibilities on top of everything else. And so this year I've actually done a better job of written my blogs all the way through, over a month and a half in advance. So I've never done that. And
Mhm.
and so then I don't have to worry about that, and writing on Mondays and stuff. Like I've allowed actually true time off. So that feels really good. And then and just trying not to overschedule so much, like don't pack the day in so much there's no extra space.
You're correct. And that actually is step number 6. Revisit your structure and start looking at what you can refine on it once you actually get into it.
Gotcha.
So yeah, you're correct. As far as pace yourself. Now, I can hear a lot of women going, oh my gosh, I got the kids, I got the school activities, I've got the family. Yes, you have all of this.
Mm-hmm.
And how has that served you in the past? Because you're making everybody happy, but you are paying the price for it.
Right.
So we have to be careful that we're not setting ourselves up to where by the time the new year rolls around, we want everybody just to go away
Yeah.
because
Right.
we've done a great job at making their holidays enjoyable. And we're paying the ultimate price with our health, whether it's mentally, emotionally, or physically.
Yeah. It's like the martyr, the sacrifice.
Yes.
Well,
Yeah. And when you're a dysfunctional giver, what do you attract? You attract dysfunctional takers.
takers. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's different for me this year. I really feel like let other people do the dishes.
Yes.
you know?
Yeah. So number 3, borrow trouble.
Or-
Figure out what you think is going to show up as a dumpster fire, as a shit show, as crap hitting the fan. So figure out where you think Frosty's poop is going to hit the snowblower, and come up
I
with
have an example.
and then come up with a plan to handle it. Yes, Angie, what's your
So,
example?
so, hmm, I'm trying to see if I can keep it short. Um, I've talked to you and I've said, I lost Maddie, my daughter, 5 years ago. Well, it was October 26th, 2018. 2 months later, on December 26th, 2018, I was at a restaurant visiting. I'd never been to this restaurant before. And I was visiting this lady, and I was walking down there was like 2 steps, and I was going to the restroom. And when I walked to turn to the left to go to the restroom, like I didn't know there were steps there. So I kind of rolled my ankle
Okay,
when I was going down the stairs.
right.
And you know how imprints are, Dawn, like things are
Yeah.
imprinted. Well, December 26th, 2 months later, I don't know if it was because of the date, of the 26th, but um Christmas was hard because my dad didn't come, and I think I just felt so off the next day on the 26th. I
Right.
felt abandoned in that by him. And so anyway, what I've noticed since is that on the 26th of December,
Uh-huh.
shit happens. Like last year was a really bad December 26th, and I won't go into the details, but anyway, what I'm going to do this year, because there's an imprint. I
Yep.
am going to do some sort of healing code or tapping or hypnosis or whatever to just nip that in the bud, you know?
Okay. All
So
right.
there you go.
That is step number 4, repair time.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're right. Imprints are something that we've been through. Either one time it was so intense, or it repeated itself as spaced repetition, but it literally left an imprint on our system that every time we encounter something similar, to the original experience that focus those feelings and those actions of helplessness come back.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yes. And so we plan for it. We borrow trouble. So the 26th, you're putting together a plan.
Yeah, even before that, right?
Yeah, yes. So I knew with my mom visiting that at some point either we weren't going to get along, or it was just going to be too much for me. So I put together a plan of how to handle it. And that's when my sister was going to step in and assist me with what my mom's going on, what would be going on with my mom. Now, here's the important thing to know. What you plan on going wrong typically will not be what goes wrong.
Mm-hmm.
It'll be something that'll catch you completely off guard. I in no way planned on my dog having a seizure the day before Thanksgiving. And it actually took him 24 hours to recover from this one. I did not plan on that happening. But because I've been borrowing trouble, every time I set a goal, every time I set an end result that I want to experience, I'm like, okay, what can go wrong here?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And
It's
so
the self-fulfilling prophecy.
and so when you say, I'm going to borrow trouble and I'm going to put together a plan to handle it, what you're doing is you're training your subconscious that when stuff shows up, you're going to handle it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
This is the reason why Navy SEALs will look at a mission and run through it dozens and dozens of different ways where something can go wrong. And usually what they plan on not going right is not what happens, but they've trained and conditioned their brain. It's okay, we're going to find a way through it, around it, over it. So by borrowing trouble, by me going, something's not going to work right with my mom, then when something caught me off guard, I was resourceful enough to go, this is how I'm going to handle it.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yes, Thanksgiving was spent me and my pup. My mom went to my sister-in-law's, but then the other family are like, okay, how can we assist? How can we step up? How can we make this happen? Maybe not on that day. And it's because I had reached out to my support system. It's because I had put a structure in place, and it's because I had planned and I included them on that plan that things were not going to go right at some point, and everybody was ready.
So I see, because at first when you hear borrow trouble, it sounds negative. Like, why would you do that? Like, why would you do that? But you explained to have a contingency plan, you know?
Yes. And that contingency plan typically isn't going to be the one you use, but it doesn't matter. What you're really doing is training the brain that when BS shows up, you're going to handle it.
Yeah, you're resourceful.
Exactly.
Yeah, I like that.
And then number 4, repair time. And Angie, this is what you were going to, is that, hey, I'm putting in time to repair. So I'm not talking about refreshing and renewing and feeling rejuvenated.
Yeah.
I'm talking about, wow, there's going to be anger, sadness, loss, and potential shutdown. I need to have extra time, even if it's just 90 minutes. Now, if you're like, Dawn, I don't even have 10 minutes to myself, well, then reach out to your support system and get some help with that, because you're going to need time to repair. I was sharing with Angie before we got on the call. My mom went back home this past Sunday. Today's Wednesday. And except for today, her and I working together, assisting you with this, I took the day off, not going anywhere, not doing anything, because I needed the repair from the 2 weeks with my mom. And I knew I was going to need all day.
Yeah.
Okay. So at least 90 minutes of maybe it's zoning out watching your favorite show. and not doing anything that is constructive. Just allow your system to go, this is our downtime.
Well,
Okay.
after I did that 3-day financial class, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, on the weekend when I would normally replenish,
Mhm.
I knew Monday needed to be pretty much a down day, a rest day, until I
Mhm.
had this group thing at 4:30. So even though I did do some productive things, I did it at my own pace, you know?
Yeah, there you go. 5, allow yourself to disappoint other people.
Hmm.
Let them down. Uh, you, chances are, if you've been hanging with me for a while, you understand that at some point you were parentified, which means as a child you stepped up and you took the responsibility for the well-being of others around you, but at the expense of yourself, because as a child, you did not have the intelligence to understand how to handle that. And so you'll continue to repeat those habits around the holidays. You heard me say earlier, dysfunctional givers attract dysfunctional takers.
Hmm.
You cannot be dysregulated and expect those around you to be healthy. You will trigger their own dysfunction. They can be healthy, but because you're off, now you can infect them and they're off. And now you got a problem. So know where you overgive and borrow trouble, put together a plan that is going to say, no, I'm going to cut back just a little bit, maybe 10 to 20%. I'm going to cut back a little bit. Some people are going to get upset over it. That's okay. I'm going to let them down because then it actually allows them to step up in a bigger way. I had a client last night. It's actually a couple that I'm working with. And he was assisting someone financially when they really couldn't afford it right now. And he's like, oh, my intuition is telling me it's going to work out right. And I'm like, I don't care about your intuition because your intuition will lie to you. It will tell you things based on your past. And I know that you've already shared with me, you typically overgive. I care, does this person have a track record of repaying debt? Because that is out of the 5 levels of trust. Number 1, you know them and get them. Number 2, you're for them. Number 3, they are a person of character. And based on that character, number 4, they have a track record. What is this person's track record? Well, it wasn't very good. And I'm like, okay, well, we need to do risk mitigation then. You need to pull back on what you're going to give them. They're not going to be happy about it. But you can only give where you know that you are willing to walk away from that amount of money because they won't pay it back. Don't tell them that. You still expect a repayment, but refine the number that you're going to give them and say, you know what? After reconsidering, this is what I can do. Will they be happy? No, it's not the amount that was promised, but you know it's the amount that you're okay with that will not jeopardize your family. So let people down, disappoint them, pull back because you cannot continue to pay the price for someone else's painful problems.
This was a good one. This was maybe the best one so far for me. Um, I've also heard this called wearing the villain crown, you know,
Oh,
wearing the villain crown, because can we be okay in the midst of someone we care about being disappointed in us,
yeah.
judging us or whatever that is, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that a lot of women in particular, maybe it's not just women, but are people pleasers,
Oh,
very
yeah.
much people pleasers. And I certainly have done that and still am at times. And this is key. I think, it is not selfish to want to please ourselves,
Mhm.
it's okay to please yourself.
And it's okay to say, I need to put my values in order.
Hmm.
And when I value someone over me in a dysfunctional way, that's going to trigger their dysfunction.
Right.
Yeah.
Pure
Unless
confusion.
unless they're trained to hold the line and say, no, I can hear what you have going on without getting involved in a infected way. I can hear
Hmm.
what you have going on and I can assist you with better impact. Unless they're trained to do that, when you are disordered, dysregulated, dysfunctional, there's only one of three things that's going to happen when you're around somebody healthy. When you're around somebody healthy, they'll invite you up to their level, or you will drag them down to yours, or you will have to part company because you can't keep somebody healthy and somebody dysfunctional in the same space. They repel each other.
Yeah.
Okay, so after you've looked at your support system, you've given yourself structure, you've borrowed trouble, you put in repair time, and you've decided to let others down. Number 6 is you need to revisit, number 2, your structure and look at what else you can let go of. Just like you were saying, Angie, that you've already pared down some of your activities and
Hmm.
said, is this really needed? Because it's going to take more of my resources than I'm willing to give.
Yeah. And I think we talked about this, like this Saturday I'm doing this cookie party where I
Mm-hmm.
keep having people over to help me decorate and cook, bake cookies and stuff. And I do this every year. And there's this Friday, there's one of this network groups that I'm involved in. They're having a party, a Christmas party. And it's like from 4:30 to 7:30 and during dinner time. But I made the decision that no, I need that time to bake. They have to have something to decorate. If I don't have cookies, so it
Yeah,
was hard, but it's like I'm letting them down, maybe, but I'd rather let them down than me down.
that's when we have to look at what we value and put it in proper order. We have
Hmm.
to go from disorder to order. That so values have to be in order before we can begin to regulate our system and be functional. Order is the foundation of everything. And so, yeah, that leads us to number 7. What can you control with yes or no? This time of year, we will have a tendency to say yes to everybody else and no to ourselves. And so I'm just going to say, switch that around. If someone makes a request of you, tell them you need 24 hours to think about it.
Hmm.
And then you can say, okay, does it fit in with those values that are going to be at the very top? That these are the values that I have to keep focused on that allow me to enjoy the holidays.
Hmm.
And so when someone makes a request, it is, you know what, give me 24 hours. And then that allows you to evaluate with logic instead of acting on emotions, because your emotions will lie to you.
Hmm.
Your emotions are what's going to feel good in the moment, and you typically have to pay the price then for it later on.
Hmm.
So when someone asks something of me, hey, 24 hours, then do I want to do it? If it is something I know right off the bat I want to do, I'll say yes to it immediately.
Hmm.
No's typically take 24 hours for me to evaluate. But if it's something that I already know I'm going to enjoy, it's a yes right away.
Hmm. Hmm.
So, what can you control through yes and no? Give give yourself time and space to consider what do you value and does this request fit in with your values? Number 8, long-term perspective. You need to give yourself something to look forward to past the holidays.
Mm.
We can get really wrapped up in the right nows and wanting to have a perfect season while dealing with anger, sadness, loss, and shutdown, because that's typically the process that it goes through. So maybe reach out to that support system person and the one that has the higher vision and go, yeah, you know what? Maybe what's something we can do coming up January or maybe even February. I've got activities already planned as far as going snow tubing.
Oh, nice.
Okay. My vision person that I reach out to, she was like, oh, you want something to look forward to? Great. We're both Formula One fans. And she's like, great. Guess what? Next October, we're going to the Formula One race in Austin, Texas. So we are already planning that as far as booking things because it takes that long to prepare for one of these events. So begin to give yourself things that you can hope for past the holidays.
I think that's good because I don't know about you, but sometimes I have this letdown after the holidays
Yep.
because there's this hype, this, I don't know, this energy building momentum, and then it's all done,
It's
and
over.
it's over. And it's a sadness of that it's over because you like the extra connection but it's also nice because it's like it's just too much. Like I don't need the extra food, drink, whatever.
Mhm.
So that even though there's that letting down, there's a sadness too. Like, well, I don't want it to end. The build up to the holidays.
Right. So then we look at, well, what is it about the holidays? And you brought up a very significant word, connection.
Mm-hmm. It's
We're
the
looking for
connection.
greater connections.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So what can you do to begin to establish those connections past the holidays? Start planning some of that stuff now.
Yeah. Yeah.
And number 9, when all else fails, what's your phrase? I have a friend who has a friend, and they had a family member that just had to go into long-term care because of having some mental problems. And it's an older woman who's never cussed before in her life, and now she walks around saying this to everything. This is bullshit. This is it's just bullshit. She she don't like the food that they're serving her in the long-term care. Oh, this bullshit. Okay. She don't like what's on TV. This bullshit. And I'm like, that's my phrase because it makes me laugh.
Makes you
Okay.
laugh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So something doesn't go my way, and I'm muttering underneath my breath, this bullshit. So when all else fails, what is your phrase that's going to bring humor into the situation?
I don't know if it's humor, but so does it have to be humor?
Well, keep in mind, we're doing a pattern interrupt.
Yeah.
Okay. So we're not necessarily looking for growth, and we're not necessarily looking for that higher perspective. So
Mm-hmm.
can you do
So
those
like this
things?
too
Yes.
shall pass is more of that.
This too shall pass. It may pass like a kidney stone, but
Right.
it's
Right. You can add that. Yeah.
yeah, but it's gonna pass. Yeah,
That's good. Like,
yeah,
because my immediate thing is this too shall pass, like a kidney stone.
yeah.
That adds in
Damn
the
it.
humor.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
mhm.
So we're wanting to look at something that lightens the mood and
Yeah. Yeah.
humor. We always go to higher levels in our brain and some of the intelligence areas when humor is involved.
Very true.
So Yeah, if you see me walking around muttering to myself, this is bullshit.
That's what
you,
you're doing.
yeah, you can pretty well guarantee that something just happened, but I don't need to go all the way down into shutdown.
Right, right.
Okay. I can be angry, I can be sad, and I can experience the loss, but my system does not have to completely move into anxiety and panic, which I like to use overwhelm and emotional flooding, because anxiety and panic are diagnosis codes that say that you need to be on medication. And Angie and I don't deal with meds.
Mm-hmm.
We
Mm-hmm.
deal with behavioral modification, we deal with emotional optimization, and we deal with focus for fulfillment through our coaching. And then the hypnosis we use to get subconscious agreement on all three of those, which is what makes up an identity upgrade.
Mm-hmm.
So you can have temporary anger, sadness, and loss, but you don't have to go all the way into the pit of pain. You can bounce back. So what's going to be your phrase? All right. So Angie, anything that you want to add to that?
Hmm. Um,
Besides kidney stones.
I mean, I like the list. It's really good. So when you're talking about confusion, chaos, crisis during the holidays, I think, well, the breath I think is great. Just
Mhm.
not to abandon yourself, because when we lose that connection with ourself is when we get in trouble with others, you know? So not to self-abandon and to stay grounded, stable, connected, grateful. Um, that's when we remain connected with ourselves, I think, that we can
Yes.
handle anything. I mean, people can judge us and they can criticize us and we're still okay. Like it's like nothing can touch us. It's like we have this invisible shield around us when we're truly connected in with ourself, with our heart, with our energy.
Yes. And so the confusion is always the first step
Mm-hmm.
because things are out of order. And so now we're going disordered. And once the subconscious starts going a certain direction, it will look at picking up speed. So it's very easy to go from confusion to crisis. And in crisis, we get dysregulated. Our system doesn't know how to handle with the emotions that are happening. And then we go into chaos. And that's when we go dysfunctional. So put
Yeah.
things back in order. And that's what you were saying, Angie. Get the connection with yourself. So put things back
Yeah.
into order. Begin to regulate and say, okay, what is it that I value? And then from regulation, functional as far as taking actions to where we can look at you and go, this is what she values because we can see it through her actions.
Yeah.
That's
Uh,
it right there.
Again, I just think that it's so easy to give our power to things outside of ourselves, and to
Mm-hmm.
say, well, they're doing this, or maybe my bank account is doing this, or whatever. And then we start to feel out of control.
Yes.
And so like even hugging ourselves, putting our hands around our shoulders, breathing and saying, you know what? You're going to figure this out. That to me is resilience, resourcefulness, and to reassure yourself. And over time that muscle will start to build, if you
Yes.
just say, you'll
And,
figure
and,
it out. It's going to
and
work
what you
out.
just said, you'll figure this out. I was sharing a month ago with some friends some things that were going on. And one of them looked at me and said, oh my gosh, you've been making this happen. And it caught me off guard. I didn't even realize how much I had made happen, how many things that I did take control over.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is the reason why it is so significant in having a support system around you. Is everybody going to be ideal? No, everybody's going to have their own flaws, but you want to seek out people that pretty much in a few areas have their stuff together.
Mm-hmm.
You know that they're regulated, they're ordered, they're functional. And so when she's like, yeah, you've been making this happen. And I was like, an awareness, yes, I have. And then as soon as your subconscious allows the conscious to have awareness, now both parts of your powerful mind are working together to go, how can we get even more of that? Which is the reason why step number one, having your support system, is so significant, and being able to have the happy holidays instead of being holidazed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
it.
'cause, like I'm in a it feels like in a transition phase in some ways. And so, when we get into that confusion of limbo land, like, well, am I supposed to be doing this? Or, is my marketing message really being effective enough? Is it working for me? Or should I not be spending that much time on that? And, all those questions that we can have. And one way that I self-soothe and regulate is through saying, you don't have to have this all figured out right now in this moment. Like, it's okay to have some unknown here, you know?
Oh yeah.
And so part of my work right now during this month has been to surrender, So I've been doing
Mm-hmm.
some surrender work through a healing code actually. And not not I mean, I'm surrendering. It may sound like a bad thing, but it's really surrendering the need to try to control everything, you know?
Right. That
Because I don't
you
control most things. I'm controlling my system, my nervous system regulation, and my perception of things, but I don't control anything else, So,
that's when we look at what do we say yes and no to. And that comes around to our identity upgrade.
mhm, mhm.
Yes. Getting comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, Angie, if
Yeah.
someone wants to reach out to you for assistance with the holiday season, how can they contact you?
They can go to my website, harmonyharbor.com. Should I spell that?
Sure.
HARMONY Harbor, HARBOR.com. And it's Angie at harmonyharbor.com. And my number is 1-314-422-6520. And I'm also wanting to put it out there that I've got a few slots open for private coaching. So if you want to do a free discovery session with me, reach out to me. And I also have a class coming up January 24th called Mental Fitness for Intuitive Women Leaders. It's an 8-week course. So that's also out on my website.
Okay, great. And if you want to reach out to me to begin to harness that anger, sadness, loss, and do a pattern interrupt on the shutdown, you can go to dawnlandrum.com. You can go to canhypnosishelpyou.com, or you can text me or call 1-636-699-7791. We'll have a conversation to make sure I am the best fit for you and moving forward into the holidays in a way where you feel fulfilled, not just now, but in the long term for that identity upgrade. Okay, Angie, thank you so much for
Thank
joining
you,
me
Dawn.
today. And we look forward to getting together again with you in January, where we're going to be talking about ditch the resolutions and actually start getting results. Yeah. Okay. So
Sounds good.
until we get
Thank you.
together again, bye now.
Happy holidays.